On the second floor of the Carolina Theater in downtown Durham, an exhibit stands remembering 60 years since mass demonstrations took place in 1963, calling on an end to segregated facilities. Looking back on it now, even just knowing former state senator Floyd McKissick Jr. remembers it like it was yesterday.
Well, I'm part of the last generation that remembers segregation in America, that lived it, that saw it, that experienced it firsthand.
6 decades ago, the former senator and Durham city councilman was participating in civil rights demonstrations with his father, the late civil rights leader Floyd McKissick Sr.
There's a picture of me picketing when I was about 9 or 10 years old in front of Royal Ice Cream place over in Durham. But I mean, I wanted to picket. I wanted to be out there. I mean, and while you were picketing, the Ku Klux Klan would come by and throw out leaflets telling you that you've been visited by the next Ku Klux Klan. But at our home, from dusk dark to break of dawn, we had people sitting there with shotguns and rifles to protect us because we had so many threats coming in.
Efforts to desegregate Durham started long before the 1960s, with the Royal Ice Cream Parlor sit-in in 1957. In January of 1961, on the same day of President John F. Kennedy's inauguration, Durham schools and colleges began peacefully protesting outside the Carolina Theater and other theaters in downtown Durham. Some of those students were from North Carolina Central University.
They didn't, sort of wave away from this idea that, sometimes you have to put your body on the line. And that's what we're talking about, people putting their body on the line.
Andre Van is an NC Central professor and coordinator of the school's archives. He took me on a tour of the theater's second floor where a civil rights exhibit currently stands.
This gives you a great example of the window that they would have seen where they would come here, but also note the sign here, colored must sit in the balcony. That's real.
Finally, in 1963, a number of mass protests took place calling on desegregation.
They took place over about a 3-4 day period. It resulted in over 800 people being arrested. That really led to a change in Durham, and Mayor Wentz Gabarek took office in that time frame.
By the summer, with the help of community members and a newly elected mayor, 90% of Durham restaurants and other businesses across the city were desegregated. McKissick told me when he looks back in those times, he sees progress, but the work is not done.
We still have a long way to go in terms of America being a just and equal society, but I'm very much encouraged by the progress we've made over the last 60 years.
And the work continues on. In Durham, Brea Hollingsworth, CBS 17 News.
The Durham Desegregation Movement, 1960-1964. The Durham Integration Campaign was a pivotal civil rights effort that unfolded in Durham, North Carolina from 1960 to 1964. Beginning on February 8, 1960, just a week after the Greensboro sit-ins, 17 students from North Carolina College, now North Carolina Central University, launched a series of sit-ins at segregated lunch counters in Durham, including Woolworth, Cress, and Walgreens. Their action quickly gained support from white students at Duke University. On their first day, the protesters were denied service at the lunch counters, and the establishments were subsequently closed the following day. On February 16, 1960, civil rights leaders Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy arrived in Durham alongside Douglas Moore, one of the original protesters, at Woolworth's. That evening, King addressed a packed audience of 1-200 at White Rock Baptist Church, delivering his famous "Fill up the jail" speech, urging that, "Let us not fear going to jail if the officials threaten to arrest us for standing up for our rights." After months of persistent demonstrations, the downtown Durham lunch counters were desegregated on August 1, 1960. The campaign continued with significant events, such as a joint protest on January 21, 1961, where black students from North Carolina College and white students from Duke University rallied against segregation at the Carolina and Center movie theaters. Protesters carried signs with slogans like, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," and "Why feed red propaganda by making democracy a lie?" Protests evolved into round-robin demonstrations at the Carolina Theater, where participants cycled through the box office, frustrating patrons and highlighting the discriminatory practices. The movement also targeted other public spaces, including restaurants. On August 12, 1962, over 500 people attended a freedom rally at St. Joseph's AME Church, featuring speeches by civil rights leaders Floyd McKissick, James Farmer, and Roy Wilkins. Wilkins declared, "You cannot live respectably with segregation," and Farmer rallied the crowd with, "You're joining the greatest and most exciting battle of the century." After the rally, demonstrators moved to Howard Johnson's restaurant to challenge its racially discriminatory policies. The intensity of the protests continued into 1963. On May 18th, demonstrations at multiple Durham establishments, including Howard Johnson's, resulted in approximately 850 arrests over the following 2 days. In response, newly elected Mayor Wenzel Grabarek established the Durham Interim Committee to address and alleviate the city's racial tensions. Through negotiation, the committee successfully persuaded various public accommodations, restaurants, hotels, and theaters to end their discriminatory practices. The campaign's efforts culminated in full desegregation of Durham's public spaces following the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 on July 2, 1964. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And be sure to tell a friend to tell another friend. Sending love to each one of you. Feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts on the topic.